Let's begin. So I will be your presenter. People call me Quranophonics. This is just a little bit of my academic and professional background. We won't spend too much time on this. And today is the second and last day of this two-part series, Creative Quran Teaching, which is based on the Quranophonics reading program. Like last time, please note your questions for Q&A time. There will be Q&A breaks in between and then at the end as well. If you need to take screenshots for yourself, please do not share those because it's important for people to understand the whole context, and seeing certain things out of context may be confusing. All right, let's begin. So we'll open up chat, and if you attended or if you watched last week's recording, you would know this. And if you're familiar with the Quranophonics reading program, please type, why are some alphabets green and some in red? What is the reason that these alphabets have been divided in these colors according to the Quranophonics program? Right, that's correct. So in the Quranophonics reading program, we emphasize this point a lot, the correct pronunciation, and to help teachers and students remember that some of the alphabets have a heavy sound or a fat sound, we call it. So the fat sound alphabets are in green, and the other ones are in red. Okay, great. Let's continue. Now, this red and green theme is there throughout, and we introduce it at the beginning of the syllabus. But then we expect the child to remember this constantly, so that when they actually come to reading the Quran, they are applying this rule and they're pronouncing the fat sounds correctly. So, for example, this is the reading practice sheet for Tanween. And even in this, the teacher can ask the child to find the fat sounds and color them in green. So this theme continues. Now, last week we stopped at reading level 5, and that was the long sounds, the mud letters. We explained about that can be understood from the videos. You can watch the videos. Now, there's a rationale for every reading level, why it's placed at a certain position in the syllabus. Why does this topic come before this? And there's a lot of careful thought and consideration that is given to the sequence of the topics. So reading level 1 is the alphabets. Reading level 2 is the harakat, fatha, kasra, dhamma. Reading level 3 is the joining letters, the shape of the alphabets in the different positions of a word. Then reading level 4 is tanween. So up till reading level 4, the child only looks at the alphabet and the symbol with it. Now, from reading level 5, the child needs this new skill where they have to look at the letter after the alphabet and then decide how they need to pronounce it. So they can't just see ta, dhamma and say tu. They have to pause. They have to look and see what's the next letter. If it's wow, then they have to stretch the sound of the dhamma. So it's not just tu, you have to look at the next letter and pronounce it as tu with, two stretches. So from reading level 5, this skill the child needs to master. This is the worksheet for long dhamma sound. We've put up a few new worksheets. And for example, here we want the child to understand that the long dhamma sound is one sound. It's not two, even though they look like two separate alphabets, like for example, in the circled one, we've given one as a sample, as an example. So meme has a dhamma, and wow, there's an alphabet next to it, which is wow, but this is one sound. So in the child's mind, we're making them connect and see these as one sound. They look like two alphabets, but it's one sound. So we ask them to put a circle on it and then read the word. So there's actually 3 sounds in this word. There's ta with fatha, then there's the long mu sound, and then there's a ta with dhamma at the end. So this is the skill which we're developing at this stage, that the child looks at these long fatha sound, long dhamma sound, long kasra sound, and they see it in their head as one sound. So here they start getting practice with this. Right, a little bit about the Quranophonics reading program. I told you many things last week, a few more things this week. The Quranophonics reading program only teaches the child what they need to read the Quran. So sometimes people ask us, why don't you also teach writing, and why isn't there, writing practice in the worksheets? We don't need to know writing to be able to read the Quran, so we do not include this skill. If you want your child to learn writing Arabic, then that's a different skill which you need to develop separately. Another thing we don't include is Arabic vocabulary, which is not connected to the Holy Quran. We don't say, for example, batta, which is duck, because that word doesn't come in the Quran, and we are not trying to teach vocabulary along with reading the Quran at this stage. We are just teaching the decoding, the symbols, the alphabets, how to pronounce correctly, how to recognize the alphabet shapes, how to know which symbol does what, and how to be able to pronounce correctly. So vocabulary, we do have a course for kids from 3 years onwards, which is a Quranic vocabulary course, but we deal with that separately. So, for example, we'll teach them words from the Holy Quran, like Shams, which means sun, Qamar, which means moon, but we do that as a separate course, not part of the reading Quran course. And we definitely avoid technical terms. So we don't teach the child, the technical terms for the rules of tajweed. We just teach them easy words, or we come up with our own terms, which you may have seen in some of the Quranophonics videos, and some will be coming up in this webinar as well. So we avoid technical terms because the child doesn't need to know those to be able to read correctly. And another thing which is important about the Quranophonics reading program, which we have touched upon last week also a lot, is that we have a lot of listening practice. We don't just introduce the rule and tell the child, okay, now you say it. They have to listen to the correct rule a lot of times before they're ready to pronounce it correctly. So these are some of the things which are a little bit different, maybe from some of the other Quran syllabus. Now, moving on, these are, we did up till reading level 5 last week. So this week, we're going to continue with reading level 6, which is the video is on our website, which is the Sukoon, the story of scared Sukoon. And the children learn about, Sukoon and why it's scared and what happens and all of that. And they find that quite amusing or interesting. And then after introducing it through the video, we start doing activities about this topic to help the child master it. This is a screenshot from the video that we show how Sukoon has to join with a letter before it that has either Fatha, Kasra, or Dhamma. So the Sukoon can only join its sound with a letter that has a haraka before it. So at this stage, we show the child, we introduce this rule and the concept of how Sukoon is pronounced. Then some activities, follow-up activities, which the teacher can do with the child. Again, it depends on whether you're doing an online session or a face-to-face session. You can ask the child to enact the video, pretend and do the same things, like let's pretend that you're scared Sukoon, and, play out the story with them. You can even do it on the screen. You can ask them, can you make a scared face like scared Sukoon? And there's a big role of emotions in learning. Like emotions, whenever emotions are involved, that particular thing gets deep rooted. It stays in our memory. So we try to use this as well in the role of emotions in learning. We try to capitalize on this. So the child sort of connects with the story of scared Sukoon, and poor Sukoon, it was so scared. And hopefully this should stay in the child's mind for longer. Similarly, we've used this in many of our other stories as well. Now, we have symbol flashcards on our website, so you can print these. We have them in color, and these colors match the colors in the video. So Sukoon is shown in purple, and you have the purple colored flashcard for Sukoon, so that the child relates it to the video that they saw, and you can cut these up and keep them to play games with. Then we move the child to black and white because they're not going to see these in color all the time. So after they've mastered the concept, we then try to move them to black and white. You can take the joining flashcards, which are also on our website. We have them in 3 colors so that the child can actually see that this is another alphabet, the middle one is another alphabet, and then the last one is another alphabet, and then we jumble them up and we make words with them. So you can use the joining flashcards, and you can use the symbol flashcards to make words with the child. So in learning stage 2, and I won't go into what learning stage 1 is, learning stage 2, learning stage 3, because we did that in a lot of detail in last week in day 1. So learning stage 1 is when you introduce the concept, like we did with the video, for example, the Sukoon video. And then in learning stage 2, now you just ask the child to point to, listen and find, or look and find. So you can make words with flashcards. You have like 2 bags, maybe the beginning sound in one and the end sound in another bag or basket or box, whatever you want. You ask the child, take one card from this pile or this bag, and one card from this pile or bag or box, and then make a word. So they join these two. Then you have the basket of harakat flashcards and a basket of sukoon flashcards. So then they place, you say on the first card place a haraka, and on the second one place the sukoon. So after that you can make a few words like these, and you can ask the child to pronounce them individually. So what's the first card you found? They found ba. What's the second card you found? Ta. So they're just saying the alphabets. And then you make a few words like these, maybe 3 or 4. And then the teacher says the word. You don't ask the child to say it at this stage because this is very initial. They have to listen a lot of times for them to master this concept. Many children find the concept of sukoon a little bit difficult to understand because it's a little bit confusing for them, but it just takes some practice and then they get it. So the teacher will say, for example, if she has the 3 words made in front of her, she'll say one. For example, she says but, okay, and she asks the child, I want you to point to the word that I've said. So the child has to look carefully and listen and find that combination. So they would point to this. If the teacher has said but, they would point to this. Now they're listening, they're observing, and they're trying to find. The child doesn't say anything at this stage. They're just getting a lot of listening practice and observation practice. Then we have the practice sheets. So you can use the practice sheets for many things. You can use them for worksheets as worksheets. You can use them as listening sheets. You can use them as reading sheets. So before we get to the stage 3, which is reading or saying or pronouncing, we can use it for, again, listen and find. So we're moving from concrete, big, the child is holding, touching the flashcards, joining them, making the words. And now we're moving to more of like print, words seen on print, black and white, which is closer to the Quran reading experience. So the teacher would, maybe use some of the words from the practice sheet. And let's say she just points to one line. She points to the first line and she says, I'm going to read a word and I want you to point to that word. So for example, she says, hamdu. And the child has to look carefully at all the words in the first line and point to the correct one. So they do this a lot of times until the child has heard how sukoon acts, how the sukoon sound is recited. Another activity you can do with practice sheets for the sukoon level or any level is print 2 sets of them and have 2 different colored envelopes, like red and blue, for example. Cut up the words, put one set in one envelope, put another set in another envelope, and the child has to sit and take out one word from the one envelope and read it to itself, or just look at it and place it in a line from up to down. So they look at each word and place them from up to down in a line. Then they take the other envelope and they take out the first word which they can. They look at it, if they can read it in their head or read it aloud, and then they find the matching a card, the matching word in the column that they made, in the line that they made, and place it with that. So they're matching the words. They're looking, observing carefully, and trying to pair them. So if you see over here, for example, hamdu in the first line, and this one, and this one. So the child has to, they both look a little bit similar. The beginning, the middle alphabet is the same. So, the child has to look really carefully and decide which ones match. So for Quran reading, as we said, observational skills, visual skills to look and decide which alphabet it is, which symbol it is, and then recite is quite quite a lot of things that the child has to handle at the same time. So here we're giving them practice with all of this. Okay, so this is an activity again which can be done with any of the reading levels. You can also use these practice sheets to play bingo. So again, you can give the child or children part of the practice sheet, and then the teacher reads out the word. Or if you feel there's a student who can do this, if it's a class, you ask the student to read it, and the others have to find it and cross it out. Or you can do it for stage 3, which is the say stage or the pronounce stage. You can tell the child, okay, now once you play it with the child, the teacher says it, then you can do role reversal. You tell the child, okay, and you have another thing on the screen, for example, another set of words or the same words. It's up to you, depends on the child's level. It's a very flexible program. Quranophonics is a very flexible program. You have to follow the child. You have to see what level the child is, what can they do, and then take them further a little bit. So then you can tell the child, okay, now can you say the word and I'm going to cross it out. So you can do this on the screen as well. You can have use your annotate pen, and if the child says a word, for example, kasaba, you can do this. Sometimes get it wrong and let the child correct you, as I had said last week also. They love doing that. So these are some of the activities which you can use the practice sheets for. Finally, learning stage 3, which is the say stage or the pronounce stage. And before the child actually reads it, we give them a little bit of, you can use it as worksheets as well. So first we say in the word or in the words, circle the letter with sukoon so that they're identifying it correctly, like that in the first word, namlu, they circle the sukoon. And then we say draw a line to connect sukoon with the letter that has haraka, because in the video we taught them this, that sukoon can only join its sound with a letter before it that has a haraka. So they join it, they make a line so that they're doing it physically, and then it's easier for them to read. So these are some of the activities you can do with this stage. And moving on. Yeah. Whatever reading level the child has completed through the video, through the flashcards, through the practice sheets, through worksheets, try to connect it with the Holy Quran so that the child knows that all of this preparation and practice that they're doing is for reading the Holy Quran, and it's very satisfying for them. So if you open any page of the Holy Quran, by reading level 6, they know a lot of rules already, so they can read certain words. Like they could read the words in the boxes that are on your screen, and they can even read many other words which haven't been circled or put a box around. So that's really satisfying. And then you celebrate with the child, wow, mashallah, you've done, you can read from the Quran. So keep encouraging the child. Then we have reading level 7, which is about Shadda, and the story is called The Secrets of Shadda. And through the video, we introduce the concept to the child. And in the video, we keep emphasizing how Shadda, which looks like a little W, and whenever you see this little W, it means double the sound. So whenever there's a W, a little W on top of an alphabet, it means that there are double letters under it, and one alphabet is hiding behind the other. So we get the child to do this physically, through concrete manipulation. So the teacher writes on the whiteboard or on the screen an alphabet with a shadda on it, and then the child has to find or choose 2 identical alphabets. And if they're in a face-to-face class, or even in front of the teacher, they with their video on in an online class, they have to slide one alphabet behind the other and add a shadda card on top. So when there's 2 alphabets, then they have to have a shadda on top. Then the teacher can do the next level, which is, she writes this word, for example, matta, and ask the child, what's a different way? What's another way that we could write this? So in the video, we've already shown them how when there's 2 alphabets and the first one has a sukoon and the second one has a haraka, you combine it and write one alphabet with a shadda and a haraka on top. So again, the child does this. They find 2 alphabets, they slide one under the other, and they add the shadda card and a haraka as well. Right. So some activities from the Shadda practice sheets. First of all, you can choose words from the practice sheet, like for example, Rabba. And you ask the child, can you make this with flashcards? So they ignore the harakat, but they just make the alphabets in the word like this. They'll find the Ra, then ba again. So these are the alphabets which are in this word. At the second level, you say, okay, now add the harakat to it. So they should be able to put the fatha on ra, a sukoon on ba, and a fatha on the last ba, so that they are understanding the concept of how shadda is pronounced. If you feel your child has mastered it, you don't need to go through all the levels. You know, if you feel your child is doing it correctly, this is a lot of practice for those children who are struggling. So we give the teacher extra tools, extra ideas, extra resources, so that, you know, there's something for everyone. But if the child is fine, they've mastered the concept, they've understood sukoon or shadda, you don't need to go through everything again and again and again. If they're reading it correctly, that's fine. Move on to the next stage. Another activity is listen and find. So again, as we said before, the teacher can, you know, point to a line or a few words and say, within these 3 words, I want you to point or, you know, place an object. For example, if they're reading it, they're sitting with you and reading it from a printed page. You can have a little bottle cap or any small object. Of course, be careful that, you know, the child's age and safety and all those, it shouldn't be too small. They place an object on the, you know, the word to show that they've understood it, or if it's on screen, they can do annotate. So again, they're listening. They need a lot of listening practice to hear how shadda is pronounced. And then when they're finally ready to read, you can use the practice sheet as a worksheet as well. And first you tell them, okay, I want you to circle shadda in these words, and then draw a line to connect, and then they can read it with the action. So in the video, we show an action for shadda as well, and the child then reads it. So they identify the shadda symbol in the words, then they draw a line to connect it with the letter before. So example, in the first word, rabba, they would circle the shadda, and then they would draw a line to the ra, and then they would read it. Now, in chat, can you type which of these 4 activities belongs to learning stage 3, the say stage? Which of these 4 activities can a teacher do for learning stage 3? Activity 1 without harakat, activity 2 with harakat, activity 3 listen and find, or activity 4 use it as a worksheet and read the words. Great. So you all are on top of these learning stages. Wonderful. Alhamdulillah. I'm so pleased. So yes, exactly. 4 is where the child is ready to read, and before they read, we tell them to, you know, identify and look carefully and do the, you know, use it as a worksheet and then read it. So when they're reading, and we ask them to do it with actions. The reading stage, the pronunciation stage, the recitation stage, that is stage 3, which is the say stage. Perfect. Alhamdulillah. Okay, moving on. We have reading level 8.1. So reading level 7 was Shadda. Reading level 8.1 is the story of Sleeping Hamza. We have the video on our YouTube channel. Have a look. And who is Sleeping Hamza? Sleeping Hamza is this, Hamzatul Wasl. And the purpose of introducing it here at this stage is for the child to look at it and observe it. Right, from here I'll add one thing. We have a lot of teachers and students and parents who are familiar with the Indo-Pak Quran script, and we talked about this last week, that there's the Indo-Pak Quran script and there's the Medina Mus'haf or the Osmani script or the Khat Osman Taha, who is the calligrapher, Sheikh Osman Taha, who has written the you know, Medina Mus'haf, as in he with his calligraphy he has done that beautiful work. So the Quranophonics method is based on the Medina Mus'haf. So from here, from 8.1, reading level 8.1 in the Quranophonics reading program, you will start to see some differences. There are some differences before this as well. And as I had mentioned last week, we have a very detailed document on our website, which with examples, with images, shows you the differences in the Medina Mus'haf and the Indo-Pak Quran script. So this is one of those differences. The Hamzatul Wasl, you won't see this in the Indo-Pak script, but you will see it in the Medina Mus'haf. And it's important for the child to recognize the symbol because it might look a little bit to them like Dhamma. So we don't want them to read it as a Dhamma. It's a different symbol and it has a different role. And we teach them that whenever you see this sleeping Hamza, don't disturb it. That's how we explain it in the video. Do not disturb it. It's sleeping. So let's just move on and ignore it. And we skip it when it comes during recitation. We also have touched upon what to do when it comes at the beginning of recitation, a little bit in the video, but we talk about that in a much later reading level because, you know, the child doesn't need to know so much and it would get confusing. Here, our objective is look at this symbol, recognize it, and know what to do with it when it comes during recitation. So you just ignore it and move on. So this, so whenever you see Hamzatul Wasl, in the middle of recitation, you put a cross on it, and then again you join, because now you're left with a sukoon on lam, and you join it with the alphabet before, which has a haraka, which is waw. So it would be wal qamari. So from here, we are now trying to show the child, because remember in reading level 6, when we introduced sukoon, we only showed them how sukoon is to join with the letter before it. And all the examples we gave was the letter was directly before it. You know, the alphabet before sukoon had a haraka. Now they're starting to understand that, okay, there can be things in the middle of sukoon and a letter with haraka, which also, you know, we need to sometimes skip over. So sukoon has to look back and find something with a haraka to join to. And if there's a sleeping hamza, we ignore it. Then same thing again, which I was mentioning just now, that in reading level 2, we explain to the child, again, this is an extension of reading level 6, which was sukoon, and reading level 7, which was shadda rule, that sukoon and shadda can only join with an alphabet that has a haraka before them. And here we tell them that even if there are many alphabets in the middle, which you need to ignore, you still need to keep looking back, look back, look back. So, for example, they've identified in this first word, the sheen. Sheen has shadda on it. Now it needs to look back and find an alphabet with a haraka. So it looks behind it, there's a lam. Is there anything on the lam? No, there's no haraka, so ignore it. Then there's a sleeping hamza. We have to ignore sleeping hamza, so we ignore that as well. Then let's look back. Oh, there's a wow, that has a haraka. Yay, we found something to join with shadda. Shadda's found something. So now it will join with the wow. So it will become washamsi. So this is an extension of the sukoon and shadda rule, that you have to keep looking back, and ignore alphabets in between until you come upon something which has a haraka on it. And this rule is very important. Please remember this rule, because it makes life a lot easier for us later on with certain other rules. So remember this rule. Now, we use the practice sheets again as worksheets. We're not doing too much of flashcards and too much of other games and things. We're now slowly moving to when the child is going to be ready to read from the big Quran, and we're now using practice sheets more, so that they are just dealing with the printed word. It's bigger, it's clearer, and it just focuses on that rule. But slowly we're transitioning them to, you know, become used to reading from the Holy Quran in black and white. So again, you know, the rules for joining with shadda or sukoon. These are some words. And they all have the sleeping hamza in them as well. So we ask the child, look at the last word, which is again sheen. Sheen has a shadda on it. Now it has to look back and find an alphabet which has a haraka. So it finds one at the back, and then it ignores everything in between. So if you see how many alphabets in between need to get ignored, and the child needs to, this is quite complex for a child, quite complicated, quite difficult to master. So remember when we were doing the long mud sounds, the reading level 5, we said now the child has to look at the letter after it and then decide how to pronounce. So here they have to look at multiple letters after it, and we're trying to get them to understand that that you have to pause, look carefully, decide, look ahead, and then pronounce. So here they're getting practice with that in the worksheet, in the practice sheet. Then we have reading level 8.3. These are called carrying letters, and the teacher can teach this later if she wants, he or she wants, or they can teach it now. It's okay. They can teach it when it comes up while reading the Holy Quran and, pause at that point and explain this rule, or they can teach it before they start the Holy Quran. So this is reading level 8.2, joining with sukoon and or shadda. Once the child has done this, they are ready to, if they've had enough practice and if they've mastered the rules up till here, they are ready to begin reading from the big Holy Quran. Of course, there are many more rules which will be introduced to them as they read, and the teacher pauses and introduces rules to them. But they can read. They won't get stuck very often. So this rule of 8.3 is called carrying letters, and we had introduced when we talked about the alphabet Hamza, we said baby Hamza is sometimes carried by alif, sometimes by waw, sometimes by ya, but you can't hear their sound. You can't hear the waw sound or the ya sound. You can only hear the sound of baby Hamza. And here we continue with this story and we say these letters are very kind and helpful, the carrying letters. So sometimes you'll find that wow or yeah are also carrying other things. So sometimes they're carrying baby Hamza. Sometimes you can see them carrying baby Alif. And the carrying letter always stays silent. So for example, in this word, we say salata. The wow, because it's a carrying letter, it's silent. And in the next one, it's ala. Because ya is carrying a baby alif. The ya is silent. And we've already talked about baby letters. We've talked about this in the mad videos, the long dhamma sound, long fatha sound, long kasra sound. We introduced this concept that a baby letter and the big letter have the same sound. So baby alif is just like big alif, and baby wow is just like big wow. We've talked about these. And this concept of carrying letters comes later as well. These carrying letters also carry other things later on, for example, like the mud symbol, which will come later. And then the last rule of reading level 8, which is reading level 8.4, is this one, very easy. Wherever you see a 0 on a word, it means ignore. 0 means nothing, so ignore that letter. Do not read it. For example, there's a wow which has a 0 on it. We don't stretch the sound of the dhamma before it. We don't say oo, we just say oo, which is a single stretch. So the hamza has a dhamma on it. It would be ula. It won't be oo because wow has a 0 on top, and 0 means nothing. So we ignore it. We just put a cross on it and move on. This is from the Holy Quran. Again, if you see many of the words, the first word, and then further down, the words have, some of the letters have a 0. 0 means nothing, so we ignore it. We don't read those. So the last word in this line is ana. The noon with fatha is just read as a single stretch. We don't read it as a long fatha sound. We don't say ana. We just say ana. This is a summary of reading level 8. Reading level 8.1 is the sleeping hamza. Don't wake up sleeping hamza. Ignore it when it comes in the middle of recitation. Reading level 8.2, shadda and sukoon only join with a haraka before it. Everything else is ignored. 8.3 are the carrying letters. Carrying letters are silent. And the last one is 8.4. 0 means nothing. So ignore the letter which has 0. Okay, so this comes to the end of part 1 of the syllabus. So part 1 of the Quranophonics reading program, the syllabus has 3 parts. Part 1 ends over here at reading level 8. And these are the essential rules needed to be able to read the Holy Quran. And then we keep introducing more rules later while the child is reading the Holy Quran. We had practice sheets for different things, but with older children, you can just show them pages from the Holy Quran and ask them to, annotate on that. For example, here, this is the sleeping Hamza rule and the joining with Shadda rule. So, you can just use words in the Quran because the child is now getting in subconsciously in their mind. They're like, oh, okay, this is from the Quran. I'm reading this rule which comes in the Holy Quran. So that's helpful for them to understand that this is all connected. Okay, I will pause at this stage and take any questions if you have any, and then we will move on. Baby alif is in the long fatha sound. So it would be reading level 5.3, which is the long fatha sound. So in reading level 5, we have the the mud letters, the long sounds, the long dhamma sound, long kasra sound, long fatha sound. And we talk about baby alif, baby waw, baby ya. And those are covered in that reading level 5 videos. Any other questions? Okay, great. Let's continue because we have a lot to do today. Right. So now we move on to the next part, which is part 2 of the Quran phonics syllabus, which is now the child is ready to move on to the big Quran, and you need to celebrate this, and you need to, on the day when they have actually recited the first time from the big holy Quran, there should be a celebration. You have to tell the parents about it, and they should get a gift, or celebrate in any way that is suitable for families to do. If it's in a class, or it depends on the situation really, but it's a big thing, it's a big milestone in their life. And this is inshallah the beginning of a very positive and healthy relationship with the Holy Quran. And this needs to be made a big deal out of. Right. So how do we help the child move on to the big Holy Quran? The first day when you actually start the child, just use any copy of the Holy Quran or Mus'haf, like the full big one, which has all the juz in it. Use that and start from the beginning. And the first surah is Surah Al-Fatiha, of course. So most of the children would know this by heart anyway, because, coming from Muslim families, they would have heard this surah and they would know it by heart. So that's okay. Let them see and, start with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And if they're not, there are still many rules in Surah Al-Fatiha which they haven't learned yet, and they might struggle. But it's okay if they're just reading it out of memory and looking at the page, it's fine. So just for barakah, it's good to start with Surah Al-Fatiha, but we do not then continue with the rest of the juz 1. So we just start with Surah Al-Fatiha, and that experience of holding the Mus'haf, the big Holy Quran in its entirety, just that is very satisfying for the child, and they think, oh, I'm big now. And they would be seeing the other family members, of course, reading in the house, inshallah. So this is the start to it. Then we move to actually reading, where they're actually applying the rules and reading. And for that, we recommend starting with Juz 30, the last Juz, which starts with Surah An-Naba. And Quranophonics is working on a new resource. So if you can see at the top, this is what it looks like. Because when the child moves from their practice sheets or from their qaida to the big Quran, it's very daunting. There's a lot of words, and they might look very confusing to the child. But with the Quranophonics, My First Quran, which is interactive also, it's easier on the eyes. The words are separated. There's more spaces between the words. And inshallah, this should be easier for the child to read and apply the rules. So we recommend starting with Juz 30 and starting from the beginning of Juz 30, which is Surah An-Naba, and going all the way to the end. There's many reasons for this. One of them is that the ayat are shorter in these surahs. There are more surahs in this in the last juz. So it's you can give the child a star after some time, that, oh wow, mashallah, you've done 10 surahs. And encourage them. And because they're shorter ayat, you can even apply the rules of waqf. It's easier to do that. And then maybe by the end, they would know some of those surahs as well, the shorter surahs, if they've been hearing them. So this is what it looks like. This is My First Quran by Quranophonics, interactive for beginners. It's an interactive Quran which we're developing, and we've shared it with many of you who requested it. It's in black and white. It's not a color-coded Quran. Like some of the Qurans are color-coded. They have the rules, already colored in. This is not like that. This is in black and white. The child reads and or colors or marks the Quran, and then they read it. So it's very adaptable to cater to every child's level. For example, if a teacher feels she wants to introduce a certain rule, much later, the child is not yet ready for qalqala, for example, then they're not seeing that rule. marked in the Quran. For example, in other Qurans, you may see, oh, why is this alphabet red? But the teacher doesn't feel the child is ready for this rule yet. With this, you introduce the rule through the video. Whenever you feel the child is ready and they're reading, they've started reading and they're moving ahead, this is what it looks like. So the child is reading, and then suddenly the teacher feels, okay, I think now they're ready for a new rule. Maybe on page 3, maybe on page 2, maybe on page 10. And then they pause their recitation, the child, and they say, okay, today we're going to watch a video and I'm going to teach you a new rule. So through the video, they teach them a new rule, for example, qalqala, and then they do some practice with qalqala words and the activities that we recommend. And then they come back to the Quran, and then they have to mark that rule according to the Quranophonics interactive Quran key, which is given at the beginning of the Quran. And we've also added a bookmark, which is to be used after the child has done all the rules and they just want something for a quick reference. This is not to be used at the beginning to teach a rule. This is just after they have mastered the rule. Then it's just like a quick reference thing. So as they go on, along reading, reciting, the teacher then decides when she wants to introduce which rule. And the child marks it and then reads it to focus more. So it's interactive. It keeps the child awake, because sometimes just reading, reciting becomes a bit monotonous and boring for the child when they're onto the big Quran. So you can stop and do interactive activities that I want you to mark this rule. Can you see this rule? And now mark it in this way. You can do this online, annotate through Zoom. So this is what it looks like. One resource I would like to share with teachers is a wonderful website which I use a lot with my students, and that is houseofquran.com. And go for the teacher program. In this, in many of the other websites, you do have audio recitation. So you click on an ayah, and then it would play the ayah for you in the sound of different qaris. But with this one, what you can do is they have this version. They have this version where you can choose this one, word by word recitation. I don't know if you can see it here. Okay. On the left, where you have the list of reciters, you click on them, and there's one which is word by word. So what this does is, for example, you've taught them a rule, the child a rule, or you feel that the child is not pronouncing it correctly, or you want them to hear the correct pronunciation, you're not confident about your own pronunciation, and I would highly recommend that teachers use this resource. So for example, with the rule of mim shadda, how do you pronounce it? So the child doesn't have to hear the whole ayah. You can just click on one word in the middle. For example, if you're teaching the rule of qalqala, then you just need to play this word.
Naja'ali.
And you can tell the child, I want you to listen carefully how he does the qalqala sound, or the bouncy sound as we call it. So this is something, and inshallah we are trying, have this feature embedded in My First Quran as well, so that the same thing, and we will have a different reciter, of course, to whenever the teacher feels that she or he wants the child to hear a particular word being pronounced correctly, they just click on that word, and it would play. And if they click on the end of the ayat stop sign, then the whole ayat plays. But if they just click on one word, it would just play that word. And one of the other things I'll just mention to you quickly is that we will be having the end of the ayah numbers in English. The page numbers would be in English. All the numbers would be in English. They won't be in Arabic, to make that easier as well. Right. So this is about progressing on to recitation. So with this, with My First Quran, Juz 30, the teacher starts with the student and revises rules which they've already learned before. For example, they've learned fat sounds. So if the child isn't pronouncing them correctly, then you can ask them to circle the fat sounds and then read the ayah. They've done the long dhamma sound, so they know, they've already done worksheets about it. So they can do this again and make sure that they're stretching it for 2 and not shorter, not longer. Right. Now from reading level 9 is introducing them to the big Quran. So they do Juz 30 first from Surat An-Naba from the beginning to the end, then do Juz 29 from Surah Al-Mulk till the end. And then they can move on to to Juz number 1. So they've read Surah Al-Fatiha, they can do it again, and then they continue with Juz 1. So that's something about how to, make the child read the Quran in which order. Now, coming to reading levels 10 to 17, we did, I told you up till reading level 8 are the essential rules for reading. Then in reading level 9, you bring them onto the Holy Quran, the big one. And then slowly and gradually, you introduce reading levels 10 till 16, and 17 isn't really a reading level, but I will tell you about that. Now, from reading levels 10 to 17 or 16, it is up to the teacher if they want to change the order. For example, if the teacher feels, no, I want to teach Qalqala first, or I want to teach Waqf first, they can. It's not the end of the world. Here, we're not building one rule on top of another. Just like, for example, in reading levels 1 to 8, they needed to know about harakat to understand about, sukoon, and those reading levels were linked to each other, and the practice sheets and all the activities of Quranophonics were linked in that way. You can't teach them one before the other. But when it comes to reading level 10 to 16 or 17, the teacher can teach them in the order that he or she feels strongly about, but Quranophonics has arranged the reading levels from 10 to 17, the different topics. For example, Qalqala, for example, the rules of Noon Sukoon, for example, the rules of Waqf, etc. We have arranged them, we have sequenced them in a certain way based on many considerations. So we've carefully thought about, why does this reading level have to be before this? Why is it better if this reading level comes after this? And I'm going to explain that to you as well. Now, from the point of view that a child is going to begin reading from Juz 30, one of the considerations is this, that does this rule appear often, and will the appearance of this rule confuse the child? So, for example, the mud symbol, yes, this curly line mud. The child has never seen this before from reading levels 1 to 8. When they see it, they'll be like, what's this? What do I need to do with this? So we have put this in the beginning, and we explain this rule to the child, that when you see this sound, when you see this symbol, this is what you need to do. So number one is, does the appearance of this symbol or this thing confuse the child? Then we put it at the beginning. We've put it for that, one of the reasons. Another thing which we've thought about is the frequency of the rule. So for example, the rule of Mim Shadda or Noon Shadda comes very frequently in Juz 30 and in the Holy Quran. So it's an easy rule to master. So we've put it towards the top. We've put it, at reading level 11. Then, for example, one of the other considerations is this, that how important is it for the child to know this rule? For example, with the rule of idgham for waw and ya, like in these two words here, if the child doesn't know the rule of idgham, they might say lima yara, and that's, that can change the meaning, or that's incorrect reading. So that's why we feel that it's important to introduce this reading level at the beginning, so that the child is not getting into the habit of reading it incorrectly. So we explain this rule to them. Another consideration is, how difficult is this rule to master? Like, will the child find it very difficult to understand this rule? Then we leave it for later. For example, this rule about tanween, when it comes before idgham, waw or ya, is more difficult for the child to master. So we leave the tanween rules for later, some of them, but we teach it with the noon. When it comes with the alphabet noon, like liman yara, we teach it with the noon first, and we leave the tanween for later, because it's difficult to explain this rule to the child, that, oh, the second haraka is actually a noon with sukoon, and it's, all of those things we have to get into. So it might be confusing for the child to learn these two together. So we leave the tanween part of it till later in the reading levels. So what I'm trying to tell you at this stage is that the reading levels 10 to 17 are there as a guidance, as a guideline for teachers. You can introduce them, like if you feel reading level 12 before 10, it's up to you, but Quranophonics has arranged them in this particular order for very solid reasons. Okay, now reading level 10 in the Quranophonics syllabus is the long mud symbol. Okay, we call it the stretchy symbol. Or so this is something which you can, do with the child. Even if it's online, you ask the parent that, have an elastic band ready, and you can demonstrate this to the child and show it to them, stretch it, say, doesn't it stretch? Now I'm going to cut it. And, you can stretch it and show them, make the elastic band into the shape of this mud symbol. And explain to them that just like, this is a stretchy, the band, elastic band is stretchy. This symbol also stretches the sound. So while you're saying the long mud sound, you can stretch to show them how it's the sound stretches, and visually they're seeing it. And if they have it with them in their hands, they're stretching it. And that's why we call Quranophonics a multi-sensorial approach to teaching. Many senses are involved. They're not just looking and hearing. They're actually touching and feeling, and in different ways they're learning, and this leads to deeper learning. So concrete manipulation means they're holding, touching, feeling these things. So the mud symbol is new to the child, and that's why we introduce it here at reading level 10, because if they come across it, they don't know what to do with it. And that's why we tell them here that this is what happens to it. Now, and it's also easier for them to learn because it's just an extension of the long sounds that they've learned at reading level 5. They learned about the long dhamma sound, long kasra sound, long fatha sound, which is stretched for 2 counts. But now this stretchy symbol is stretched for 4. So we don't distinguish between all the different types at this stage. We just tell them that if you see this symbol, stretch it for 4. Whether it's in the middle of a word or at the end of a word, we don't get into all of that. Because in the Medina Mus'haf, all of these stretchy symbols look the same. This mud symbol looks the same. Whereas in the Indo-Pak script, there's a different mud symbol for, the longest mud. Anyway, so we just say, look at this symbol, and whenever you see it, stretch it for 4, because it's correct to stretch it for 4, even in the middle of a word. I'm not going to get into the technical terms. Teachers who know this, mad munfasil, mad muttasil, all of that, we don't want to teach it to the child. And even if you don't know it, it doesn't matter. But if you know it, you know what I'm talking about. We also have an activity aid, a madometer, which Quranophonics has developed to help the child measure precisely the length of stretching. So, you can print this out and fold it, at the top and the bottom, and just leave the numbers in between. And the top and the bottom is just to help remember what is stretched for 6, what is stretched for 4, what is stretched for 2, and what is stretched for 1. And then, you can fold it at the back and just have this strip called the madometer, like a thermometer. It measures the length of stretching. So for example, whenever the child sees this stretchy mud symbol, the stretchy symbol, they have to run their finger along from 1 to 4 while they're saying it. So for example, they would say ja'a, ja'a, and run their finger along for 4. Now, how to make sure that they're stretching it for the right length? Again, as I showed you that website, House of Quran, you can hear the Qari and, check your length is correct. And, the speed of movement along the madometer can be measured with that to get into the habit of it. So this is also available on our website. You can print this for the child and keep it as a bookmark in their Holy Quran. Then we come to, I'm just checking in chat if anyone has written anything. Okay. There is another one, the Noble Quran. Okay, thank you for that. So there's another website which somebody has shared, Jazakallah. This is just an example of word for word recitation, which I mentioned. I'm sure there might be many others out there. So Jazakallah for that link. Okay, coming to reading level 11. Now, in this, Quranophonics has done something different. We have combined the rules of Noon, all the rules related to the alphabet Noon, and all the rules related to the alphabet Meme. We have combined them into one reading level. And then there are sub levels which we do. So at the first level, we teach them the rule of noon and mim shadda. So whenever mim shadda appears or noon shadda appears, this is what you need to do. And it's an easy rule for the child. So we introduce it at the beginning. Wherever they see this is how they have to pronounce it. I won't get into the audio of it. And there's a rhyme for it, which we will have in the video, where the child will be singing the rhyme for everyone to remember. And this helps while reciting. So when the child is reciting and they come upon a mim shadda, noon shadda, and they miss the rule, the teacher can remind them by starting to say the rhyme, and the child should remember it. Now we tell them that when you have to say mim with shadda or noon with shadda, it makes a tickling feeling in your nose, and there's a humming sound. So it's not just shadda on any other alphabets. A shadda on mim and noon is pronounced in a special way, and we'll explain that in the video. But through the rhyme, they would remember that it makes a tickling feeling in the nose, and you tell them touch your nose and feel it when you say thum. And even if they close their nose, for example, I used to do this with my students, say thum, and then close your nose and try to say the same thing. If the sound stops, that means you're saying it correctly, and you need to feel that tickling feeling in your nose a little bit. And another way to test it is while saying a word with noon shadda or mim shadda, while saying it, close your nose tight and try to say it. If you can't say the sound, you're doing it correctly. So this is a little experiment that you can do with the child. And the action for this is they have to touch their nose when they're saying these words with mim shadda or noon shadda. And they have to stretch the sound. The humming sound is stretched for 2 counts. Again, you can use the madometer for this. We use the practice sheets again. So the child is reading from the My First Quran interactive. And the teacher feels, okay, now I want to stop and introduce this new rule to them of mim shadda, noon shadda. So they watch the video, and then through the practice sheets, she tells them, okay, I want you to find the mim shadda or noon shadda in these words and color them with orange. So the child is observing, noticing whenever this happens and doing that. Then the teacher gives them listening practice. So for example, in the last line, there are alphabets which are not mim shadda, noon shadda, but they are other alphabets with shadda. So the child has to look and point. For example, if the teacher says kulli versus amma, the child is noticing that some of the letters with shadda, like they learned before, are just recited in a regular way without any stretch or without any hum. But the alphabets which are mim shadda, noon shadda, the teacher is stretching those, and there's this humming sound, and the child should point to it. So they're listening to the teacher saying it correctly, and then they're ready to read. Now, I had told you previously that remember that rule 8.2, reading level 8.2. Does anybody remember reading level 8.2? It was related to sukoon and shadda, and I said, remember this rule, it's important, it will be useful for you later on. Does anybody remember that rule, 8.2? It was after sleeping hamza. Okay, so we said that sukoon and shadda can only join with a haraka before it, and everything else gets ignored in between. Remember the words with which we did tara shamsa? So there were lots of things in between. So the rule is sukoon and shadda only join with a haraka before it. Okay. Now that rule saves you from teaching the rest of the rule of idgham, because in the Medina Mus'haf, Mim and Noon and Ra and Lam will all have shadda on them when they come after a Noon with sukoon. But here there's nothing on the Noon. So since the child already knows that, they use it for all the other words. It's the same thing over here. They found a shadda, and they now need to find a letter before it which has a haraka, and everything gets ignored. So similarly, the noon gets ignored as well. There is but remember, we have to tell them that, but remember the rule of mim shadda, noon shadda. Whenever that comes, you have to stretch it and hum it. It tickles in your nose, and you hum it and stretch it for 2. So the same thing is applied here. So again, the mim shadda and noon shadda, whenever you see them, you have to read them with that tickly sound, that sound which comes from your nose, and stretch it for 2. but also you remember this rule that sukoon and shadda only join with the haraka before. So all the shaddas here will join with the letter before it and the noon is ignored. So this saves us a lot of effort. We don't need to teach them these rules separately. We don't teach this rule of yarmalun because all these alphabets of idgham are, behave in a different way. We just teach them the rule of mim shadda, noon shadda, and then this is covered. Again, another rule we can skip with this rule of shadda and sukoon only join with a haraka before it. In fact, we only need shadda. Shadda only joins with a haraka before it. When we have idgham of meme sakin, there's a meme and then the meme with shadda after it. So again, meme shadda from in the word min needs a letter before it, which has a haraka, which is kaf. So it's kum. And meme shadda, remember meme shadda always, tickle and stretch, tickle and hum. So it would be kum min. And another other rules which you can escape from teaching are all the other types of idgham. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry, but there's this idgham, mutamasilain, mutajanisain, mutaqaribain. All of those you just ignore. You don't need to teach them separately. Just remember, whenever there's a letter with shadda, it can only join with a letter before it that has a haraka. So this would be nakhlukum, and the qaf in between is ignored because it has nothing. So a lot of these rules are covered. We don't teach them separately. We don't even need to teach them. We just, remind the child about the rule that they've already learned in 8.2. Again, I will remind you that the reading levels 10 onwards, there is some flexibility in the syllabus. And if the teacher feels strongly, if the teacher feels, no, I have to teach all the Yarmalun alphabets of Idgham, I can't, I can't live in peace with myself. I won't get sleep at night. It's up to you. But we promote this way because it's easier. The child will be reading correctly. Of course, when they're a much advanced reader and, maybe you want them to know the technicalities of the rules, then you teach them all the technical terms and, what and which and everything. But for the purpose of reading correctly, correct pronunciation, you can skip all of these. Right, so reading level 11.2, we teach them only 2 alphabets of idgham, which is wow and yeah, and I'll come to that. But before that, we need to introduce this nothing noon to them. We show them this nothing noon. How do you differentiate it with the other noon? Nothing noon has no symbols. Nothing noon will have nothing on it. Okay, nothing noon has nothing on it. And nothing noon is different from the other types of noons in 3 ways. The sound of nothing noon is different from the other noon. Like we don't use the word ghunna with them, but it sounds different because we call it the ghunna sound, but you don't have to tell this to the child. You just say it sounds different. Nothing noon's sound is different. Nothing noon, another thing which is different is nothing noon is stretched for 2 counts. And whenever you see nothing noon, you must see what the next letter is to decide how to pronounce it, how to pronounce nothing noon, what the sound will be. So we said the first S is the sound is different from nothing noon. Now the sound will always be different. The sound of nothing noon before ya and waw will be different. The sound of nothing noon before any of the ikhfa letters will be different. So we can't say that there is one specific sound for nothing noon. It depends on the letter after it. So it's very important for the child to understand this, that the sound of nothing noon, first of all, observe and notice whenever you're reading, if you come across nothing noon. When you come across nothing noon, stop, become alert. And remember that the sound of nothing noon is different. It's stretched for 2. And you have to see what the next letter is. 3 S's, sound, stretch, and see. Okay, whenever you come across nothing noon. So we've alerted to them to nothing noon. We've made them observe, notice that you have to look out for nothing noon. Then we teach them if waw or ya comes after nothing noon, what do you need to do? You need to double the sound of waw or ya and imagine that there is an imaginary shadda on ya or waw. You won't see it in the Medina Mus'haf. You won't see a shadda. But we're telling the child, okay, you've spotted a nothing noon. Now become alert, open your eyes, look carefully. What's the letter after it? If it's ya or waw, you need to put an imaginary shadda on waw or ya. And remember that the sound will be different of nothing noon. you will stretch it for 2 counts, and you need to see the letter after it. So remember these things. Then the teacher will pronounce it and say it liman yara, okay? And she or he will pronounce it correctly, or use the word by word recitation of the qari and make the child hear it like that, so that the child becomes familiar with the sound. They need to listen a lot. Then they will be ready to read it themselves. So we only teach separately out of the 6 idgham letters of Noon Sakin. We only teach them how to do ya or wow because they behave differently. Like I said before, we do not need to teach them the other 4 idgham letters because they are covered with the rule of shadda only joins with a haraka before it. Okay, so we did this. Next one. Okay, and we will also have a rhyme for this. To help the child remember. Wow or ya after nothing noon, double and stretch, double the letter. Okay, so you have to double ya or double wow, and you have to stretch it for 2. So the rhyme will be in a tune, obviously. The child in the video will be saying the rhyme to help the child remember and so for it to stick in their head. And whenever they're reading and they miss this rule, the teacher can start it off, wow or ya after nothing noon, and the child should remember, oh, double and stretch. So double means shadda and stretch the sound. Through practice sheets activity, you can do some activities with them to help them, learn this rule properly. Underline nothing noon if you find it. Check the next letter. If it's wow or ya, put a shadda. And then, the teacher can read it. And the child has to point. For example, the teacher says, man ya'mal, and the child has to point to the correct box. So as we said, these rules are introduced when the teacher feels the child is ready while they are reciting the Holy Quran from the interactive Quran. They're reading, for example, they've done the first page of the Holy Quran. Now the teacher feels, okay, I want to introduce this rule of wow and ya, idgham noon sakin. So she does that, she does the practice, all of it, and then they come back to the Quran and they continue. Now in the Quran, before the child is reading the verses, they should find the rule and mark it in that. So over here you have man yakhshaha. They would again, oh, it's a nothing known, so underline it, and is the letter, look after it, is the letter ya or wow, then what you do, double and stretch. So you, for double, you put the shadda, and then you remember to read it correctly. Now we come to the 11.3, which is ikhfa noon sakin. Again, this is a nothing known, so watch out for nothing known. If you spot a nothing known, then you need to look at the letters after it. Now, sometimes, this is a story, sometimes nothing known gets really scared. Do you know why nothing known gets really scared? It gets scared when it sees any of these 15 letters after it. These 15 letters belong to the Ikhfa team. Our Ikhfa team has 15 letters in it, 15 players, and nothing known is scared of them. So what does he do? Nothing known tries to hide its sound, right? Ikhfa means hide. So nothing known tries to hide its sound from them. And again, we have a rhyme for this. We have 2 rhymes to help remember which are the 15 letters. And we have another rhyme, which, it just says 15 letters after nothing known, hide and stretch. So there will be a tune for these. And this helps the child to, in the story form, with the rhymes, it helps them to recognize this. But they need to remember, for example, whenever they see nothing known, they need to become alert. So even in this, for example, there would be, if they see a nothing known here, they get alerted. They're supposed to underline it. They're supposed to underline nothing known whenever they find a nothing known. So they would underline it and then look at the letter after it. If it's, they learned previously, if it's wow or ya, then they do a shaddan. But if they haven't yet learned ikhfa, that's fine. You just move on. And then when they've learned the rule of ikhfa, then they would know what to do with it. So this is how it works with the interactive Quran. They need to keep applying the rules. And this is what we said. The nothing known gets scared when there are any of these 5 letters after it. And you have to keep emphasizing that they have to come after the nothing known. Doesn't matter if they're before. So again, we do practice activities with the practice sheets, like worksheets. So you ask the child to spot nothing known in these words. Then If they find any of the 15 letters from the ikhfa team and they would have remembered it through the rhyme, then they have to circle them in blue. So then they know that, here the ikhfa rule is being applied. And then the teacher plays the audio of the qari, or she or he recites it themselves, and the child is hearing the correct ikhfa sound. Again, this webinar is not about teaching you the rules. This is for teachers who already know the rules, or you need to familiarize yourself with the rules of Tajweed, and then this would make sense to you. But these are more advanced rules. Now, again, the Quran of Phonics has omitted some of the things, like, for example, Izhar, Noon Sakin, Izhar, Mim Sakin does not need to be taught, because the child would be reading these clearly, just like they read any other rule. So the last word on the page is kufri. Now the child has learned how to read a word with the sukoon sound, with the sukoon symbol, and they would be reading these words above in exactly the same way. Min ilmin, hum fiha, and on the right you have an'amta. So whether it comes in the middle of a word, the noon sukoon or meme sukoon comes at the end of a word or in the middle of a word, it's read in exactly the same way that any other alphabet with sukoon is read, and whichever alphabet comes after it, it's always recited in the same way. So we do not need to explicitly separately teach the rules of idhar and learn these 6 huruf halqi. They come from the throat and these are the levels. We've done all of that with the alphabet stage about pronunciation of the throat letters, but we don't need to teach this rule of idhar, noon sakin, idhar, mim sakin, because the child won't make a mistake if they're pronouncing it, regularly and correctly. Then in 11.4, we have combined the rules of iqlab, noon sakin, and ikhfa, mim sakin. So they all have the same sound. So we've combined it in one, and the rule is ba after baby meme or big meme, and this is what you do. So if the alphabet ba comes after a big meme or a baby meme, this is so the alphabet ba, whether it comes after a baby meme or a big meme, okay, it behaves in the same way. You do the same thing. The rule is the same. You have to, hum the sound of meme. It's not pronounced clearly, like other, if memes with meme sakin, like the idhar meme sakin rule, it's not pronounced clearly like it does with the sukoon. It's hummed and it's stretched for 2 counts. So again, the teachers would be knowing this rule, so I'm not going to get into the details of it. And I'm not going to teach you how to pronounce it correctly. I'm just teaching you how to present it to the child. That ba, the alphabet ba, comes after big meme or baby meme. Then this is how you pronounce it. Min baini, hum bima. And again, we have already taught them that carrying letters are silent. So they did it already with the baby Hamza. They did it with the, carrying the baby Alif, for example, Ala. Again, here, if noon is carrying a baby meme, it's a carrying letter, and the carrying letters are silent. But the meme sound over here, we'll explain this in the video. It sounds a little bit different from the big meme. You have to like hum it and stretch it a bit, and you don't pronounce it very clearly, so it's just hummed. Milbaini. And again, over here, we say that this little baby meme, which is with the tanween, it flew up. So, we need to bring it down here. So we keep one tanween, khabiru, and then this meme comes over here. It should actually be in the middle of the word. So just to help them understand that, how to read it. So it's khabirun bima. So we teach these 3 rules over here. With actually, there are 2 rules because these 2 are one. But this is the first time now we're introducing a rule of noon sakin with tanween. And we just tell them this rule. Right, let's move on. Big meme or baby meme after ba, hum and stretch. Okay, then we introduce a little bit of the tanween rule. So the rule of noon sakin comes whether you see a nothing noon or tanween, but we don't teach them all the rules of tanween because some of them are complicated. Now look on the left, ghafurun shakur. The child will read it like that. Okay, they won't, they won't know that they have to do anything different here. They won't know that this is a rule of ikhfa. So they would just, without being taught the rule, they would just say it as Ghafurun, Shakur, just like they're reading any tanween. But over here, they will get confused because now you have a shadda. So what do I do with a shadda and a tanween? So here we tell them, if there's a shadda, after tanween, you drop one haraka. So if there's two dhammas, the two dhamma twins, you drop the second one. And then you have a letter with a haraka left. So it's khayru. And then you can join the shadda with the letter with a haraka. So it's khayrum. Okay, and remember, whenever the meme has a shadda, you always hum and stretch, and it tickles in your nose. Khayrum min. So we teach only this rule over here, the idgham rule with tanween for the letters with shadda. So I'm sorry if this is sounding confusing to teachers who are not, or to people who are not familiar with all the rules, but we only teach them over here when shadda comes after tanween. So shadda will come after tanween on meme, on noon, on ra, and lam, 4 letters of idgham. And we only teach them this. So whenever you see shadda, and before it is tanween, drop one haraka, and then you'll be reading it fine. And of course, remember the rule of meme shadda, noon shadda. Whenever you see those, you have to hum and stretch, and there's a tickle in your nose. Then reading level 12 is how to stop. So first of all, we introduce the waqf sign at the end of the ayat, and we say this is like a policeman in the road who says stop. So whenever you see this, you have to stop. And what happens when you stop? Whenever this policeman says stop, something drops. Something has to drop. Usually, not always, usually. Would we tell the child, remember, stop and drop? And this is a video which will be coming on our YouTube channel. Just watch. See. Okay, so this car was carrying these suitcases or luggage. And when the policeman said stop, the car had to stop and something dropped. What dropped? These 5 symbols. Okay, so this is how we remember, this is how we help the child to remember that when there's a policeman in the road, when there's a stop sign, you stop and these 5 symbols drop. So whether it's a fatha or a kasra or a dhamma or tanween kasra or tanween dhamma, these 5 symbols will drop. So in the Holy Quran, the teacher can ask the child to do this annotation. For example, the last word is baladi. So, okay, now you look here, you've seen there's a policeman. The policeman says, stop. So what happens? What gets dropped? The kasra gets dropped. And what comes in its place when there's no kasra or fatha or dhamma? You have to put an imaginary sukoon. But first we ask the child to draw it, to make the symbol, to write it so that they remember. And then slowly, slowly, they have to imagine it in their head. So then it becomes like this. And then there's some more rules of waqf which are in the syllabus, like what you do when there's tanween fatha and some of the other rules. Then we have the qalqala, which are the bouncy sounds. We ask the child, do you get happy when your friend comes to play? There are 5 alphabets which get happy when sukoon sits on them. They make a bouncy sound when they're happy. So we can do this with the children, like again with practical, physical manipulation, concrete manipulation, where the child is seeing the ball and you bounce these balls and you write on them the 5 alphabets which have sukoon on them, which make the bouncy sound or the qalqala sound. And we have a rhyme for that in the tune of 5 currant buns. And again, you can have a prop. Every child has balls in their house, so you ask them to bring a ball to the class. And whenever they hear the qalqala sound or the bouncy sound, they have to lift their ball up and show it to you to see that they're actually able to hear it and pick it up. And this is what an activity I used to do with one of, in my classes. So we had, 2 children, and one of them, because one child is reading, the other is getting bored. So in this, what they had to do is listen carefully to the other child reciting, and whenever they heard a qalqala sound, they had to lift up their ball to show that, okay, I heard a qalqala sound. And sometimes they would miss it, and the child who's reading, they would go on and on repeating that word, like, hey, I'm saying a qalqala sound, didn't you hear? Lift up your ball. So, they enjoy that kind of thing. If it's in a group, or you can do it, the teacher and student can do it. And other activities, error correction, which they like to do as a group. So again, with the practice sheets, or even in the interactive Quran, they find all the bouncy sounds and they color them in red to alert them to it so that they can pronounce them correctly. Then reading level 14, fat and thin sounds, part 3. We've already done fat and thin sounds previously. Here we introduce the rules of lam in the word Allah. When is it pronounced with a fat sound and when is it pronounced with a thin sound? It's a very easy rule, but it doesn't come very often. As in when they're starting Juz 30, there are many of these other rules which we need to get out of the way. But as I said, there's a lot of flexibility. If a teacher wants to introduce this rule in the beginning, they can. Then there's the rules of Ra, which have some more exceptions. We've already introduced the rules of Ra. When is it fat? When is it thin? And here there's some more extensions. Then reading level 15 is where to stop. The first one we explained was how to stop. So whenever you see the policeman in the road, stop and drop. What drops? The 5 symbols of Fatha, Kasra, Dhamma, and then the 2 tanweens, and they're replaced with a sukoon. So how do you stop? That's how you stop. Where do you stop? In the middle of the ayat. This is the middle of the ayat, stop signs. And we have this, we've shared this in the past on our Instagram page and in the website and on the group as well. Then there are some additional rules in the reading level 16, which are more advanced and they can be left for much, much later. Like we've already taught the child about starting reading with sleeping Hamza or Hamzatul Wasl when the second letter is Lam, and then it gets a Fatha. Then we tell them what to do if it's not Lam, and these are for more advanced readers. Then the second part of 16 is 16.2. Again, this is not very common. This is a rare rule. When tanween comes before Hamzatul Wasl and the next letter after Hamzatul Wasl is either shadda or sukoon, what do you do? In the Indo-Pak script, you have a little baby noon with a kasra under it. In the Medina Mus'haf, you need to teach them this rule and explain that there's a secret about the second tanween twin, and it's actually an alphabet, not a haraka. And you can tell them 3 sounds. I want you to listen, and can you guess which sound, which alphabet is there at the end of the tanween? So you can say ilman, ilmun, ilmin. Did you hear? Can you hear? Is there an alphabet sound? Which alphabet do you think it is? And the child might say noon or they might not. And then you tell them and you say that it's a noon with sukoon. But here, there's a sukoon here, and then, shadda needs something to join with, and it looks back, and then there's a sleeping Hamza, so, it can't disturb that. Then behind it, there's a tanween, and so you know what it does? It does the tanween. Please, can you wake up? Please, can you help me because I'm stuck. I need something to join my sound to. So the second tanween twin, which is actually a noon with sukoon, says, all right. So it puts a kasra under it, and becomes a noon with kasra, and then the shadda can join its sound with that baby noon sound, which has a kasra under it. Now this rule, you can ignore it if it comes at the at the beginning and end of our ayah, like this is Suratul Mulk. The child would just read Qadir and stop, and that's fine. They don't need to know this rule. But if it's in the middle of an ayah, and it comes a total of 34 times in the Holy Quran, out of which there's only a few times when it comes in the middle of an ayah. So, you can leave this for much, much later. Then we teach the remaining rules of tanween, the remaining rules of noon sakin. And we explain to the child what to do when it's ikhfa with tanween, when the idgham, waw or yakam. So yeah. And then finally, the last rule are more mud. So we teach them the longest mud rule, and we teach them this rule about stopping. So when you stop and the last letter becomes a sukoon, and before it, there's a long dhamma sound or long fatha sound or long kasra sound, it stretches for 4. And you can use the madometer to test this. Then the last one is the longest mud, which is 6. And 6 is the highest score, the highest number of runs in cricket. So you can remember that the highest number, the longest mud is 6. And it comes when you see this stretchy symbol, the mud symbol. And after it is a shadda or a sukoon. And that's it. So these are all the reading levels of the Quranophonic system. Reading level 17 is just navigating the Holy Quran, in which we teach the child in the margins. You would see these words and, the sajda symbol and what you have to do when you see that. And at the top of the page, you will see, the juz number and the surah name and things like that. It's just about how to, know how to flip pages and how to find your way around the Holy Quran. So that's that, but it's not really a rule. There are no rules in reading level 7. Okay, we've come to the end of our webinar. Please type, what did you find most useful about today's webinar? Anyone? That we can be flexible and not stick to the old pattern. Yes. Please try to be as specific as possible about, otherwise I'll think that, oh, nothing's really gone in. You don't really remember anything. If you can tell me about specific rules, that I thought this rule was, taught in an interesting way, or I hadn't thought about it like this, or this was a useful thing. So if you can be as specific as possible, that would really help. How will we get all this information? It's on the video, it's on the website, and it's on our YouTube channel. Okay, Jazakallah. I accept your thanks. Special needs, yes, special needs children are benefiting a lot from this reading program. Some who have speech impairment, some who have, other learning disabilities, they are responding really well to the Quranophonics reading program, because, as I said, it's multisensory. They can, even if they can't pronounce clearly, they can do the actions, they can, point to things. They like to get involved in the games. There's so many games. We showed you last week the mega list of Quranophonics activities and games. We have 60 plus game ideas, and they like that. They can join in and feel part of it. Advanced learners, yes, the interactive Quran is for older learners who are on the Holy Quran. And if you just get them to remember their rules and do the marking and circling, that's one way to involve them and make it more interesting for them. You can then if you have more than one student at a time, they can do error correction. So one is reading and the other is finding what they felt could be improved or what they didn't pronounce clearly, and they can do that with each other. And then of course the teacher is there. And there are other things for advanced learners. We'll do that inshallah in a separate webinar. This is Quranophonics is mainly for younger children and getting them to read the Holy Quran. Any tajweed? At the moment, no. There's a lot of resources out there, YouTube videos and things on other channels, which you can use to improve on your tajweed rules and pronunciation. Jazakumullah. Okay. All right, we'll end now. Jazakumullah, and please do fill the feedback form. And if there's anything you want to ask, share at any point, we have an email address which is given on our website. And, we're always available to answer questions from teachers or parents, specific questions. We're here to help. Jazakumullah. Yes, sister. So yes, children have a very short attention span. The teacher should not push them if they're bored, if they're tired. And that's why we have so many activities on the Quranophonics website. And we have videos. We don't have that many videos, but we have some of the videos. And last week we did lots and lots of games, activities we showed you in the webinar. So the teacher should be prepared. The teacher should have lots and lots of activities planned. That, okay, if my children are getting bored, I switch to another activity. So she or he can achieve her aim, her learning objective, that in this class, I want them to learn this or do this. But she can use different games, different activities, different techniques, and the children won't be bored with that. It's usually when teachers just want to stick to one thing and, they're not paying attention to what their students. So these are some of the activities which we showed last week. Or these are some of them. Here the children are playing a game with with the flashcards. They throw a dice and move their car along. This is the fishing game. You can find it on our website. Yes. And this is Where's My Blanket game. There's a video about it on our YouTube channel. And that's it. So, Jazakumullah. And inshallah, please stay in touch. We would love to hear from you.